Hello, good time zone friends. It's Druidsfire, and I've got another video about a game I played at PAX East 2026. And this is called The End of the Line. This one's a little bit tricky to find because it's not currently on Steam. However, they have a website which will be linked in the comments below. In the description below, so you can find it and check this website out. Unfortunately, there aren't any gameplay photos or screenshots available because, again, they don't have a Steam collection or anything of that nature, but this is a fun little game. It is a gacha game. They're upfront about that. It is a gacha game, and I don't normally play gacha games, but I thought it was kind of fun. So basically, you see this partial cast of characters, and it's called The End of the Line because it's all about railways. Okay, it's not all about, but the main driving focus of how do you get from point A to point B is you've got the super train. All right, and I like their tagline of Take Back Tomorrow. So let's actually explore the world of The End of the Line here. And we're just going to go through the website because, unfortunately, that's all we've got. You can, look up videos on YouTube about it, but we're just going to go with what the company Legio Vox, with these really cool business cards that like to interfere with my green screen. And we'll just talk about this. So this is some of the characters. I actually got to play these at PAX East. And you are the conductor, which is this character over here. You do have a choice of a male conductor and a female conductor, and we'll show a little bit more about that here in just a few moments. You've got a mysterious cat that goes with you named Schrodinger. Very interesting name there. And then you've got this other cast that we'll talk about them a little bit more because we'll be able to see who they are. So this is a brand new world. Decide your fate. And again, they're right up front about the fact that this is a gacha adventure. And it's called The End of the Line, The New Age is the actual full title of the game. And you're collecting your favorite heroes. And you're playing through battles. You level up your party. You go on quests while you're playing through the game. And that's how it's basically kind of like a JRPG. And you make choices, and the choices will determine how the story goes. It's actually really, really cool. And you can play it on, you can get it on iOS, you can get it on Android, and at some point, in the somewhat, I don't know, however long future, you'll be able to get them on Steam. Or on PC, they say. They don't say Steam specifically. I mean, it might show up on the Epic Store for all we know. And Legio Vox Studios is the company making this. Their icon is actually really interesting. But the icon of the game is actually fascinating as well, because it gives you the hint of the railway, the hint that something is going on, something has been, destroyed either in the past or in the future. And the story is actually really intriguing, I might say. So it's going to tell you about your home on the rails and the PHX double aught. PHX to me is basically Phoenix. So the whole notion of a rebirth of some kind, or a trying to get things back the way they were, a resurrection of the way things were, sounds very fascinating. And you can see there's a bit of high tech going on here. This is definitely not your mama's Victorian era train. So there's definitely something going on here. And they talk about a prototype Aegis self-sufficient train. So a train that doesn't need to stop, a train that doesn't, I guess you can pick up fuel on the way. The one thing that I find fascinating is the notion of rails. Because here in America, rails are not hardly anywhere. The concept definitely works in the notion of a place. I mean, how does this work? How come the rails are still there? That's a question that I have. And I don't think the part of the game that I played really explained how that was a thing. So somehow the world has collapsed, and we'll discuss that here in just a few moments. But yet there are still travelable, navigable, useful railways. I don't get that. Okay, so your train is your base, and it's going to give you like a greenhouse for your food growing character. It's going to have a forge for your blacksmith character, and then you can get more things. So it shows you actually, this is the video showing you a couple of the rooms. So this is going to be your room. Um, Noticing like all kinds of little details. Okay, this is where your people live. You notice there's a toilet with a half moon with a crescent moon on it. So that's obviously the toilet. I don't know how that would work out. This actually feels like it's outside. It doesn't feel like it's in the train. So it's at Hope's End. So Hope's End is your base, your home base. Apparently you can keep going back to Hope's End. And we'll talk about what a railer is. A railer is it's kind of like Sailor but for trains. Interesting idea. All right, so we're back to the beginning there, and it says coming soon, iOS, Android, PC. They actually might not be available even on iOS and Android. That being said, you can sign up for their stuff. In the meantime, we're going to dive in as we have the opportunity here. We're going to dive in. So there's a game guide that will tell you about the train. So this is obviously where you as the conductor, this is the front of the train. It looks so cool. Where you can, but it's you get the futuristic stuff. This is obviously sci-fi, but yet you've got like a random fang here hanging from a thong in the ceiling. A couple other bits and bobs that do not fit in this sci-fi thing here. Got a lovely little chair there. Got a chair here piled up with books. All right, so let's learn about the world. We're going to go down here, look at the leader. This is your character, the conductor, the child of two brave explorers. So basically, your parents have vanished. They have gone to seek the end of the line because that's the story is you're in a town called Hope's End that kind of, things are getting worse and worse and worse. And so this is the hope. This is the dream that if you go out on the rails, hopefully you'll find the end of the line and somehow magically things will get better. However, it should be noted that nobody has ever come back. You start going eastward on your journey and nobody has ever come back on the journey. So basically your train can only go forward and no reverse. So your parents have gone away. They've gone seeking the end of the line, try to discover a better tomorrow. And just like everybody else, and never came back. All right, so ready to head east. So this is not analogous to any specific area or land. It's a fantasy world, but there's this fable we've got. So we got our guide Schrodinger. We don't know if it's trustworthy or not. So yeah, why is he there? Why has he got 4 eyes? We don't know. But he knows way more. I've experienced when I was playing the game. He knew way more than he was telling. So, and that's your mysterious guide there. You got Meet the Railers, and then you got your various factions. Now, when I was playing the game, there were no Reclaimers or Watchers. They haven't revealed either of these. They've got a couple. Like most of the characters I played with were Sentinels. There was a couple from here. I think there's one from here and one from over here. So we're going to take a quick look, see if it'll let us go back. So the Sentinels are... It's like, okay, who are the Sentinels? Well, they're led by Cora. Cora is the cranky black lady. She's the fighter. She is... I didn't actually get to see Lone Wolf. So she basically, it tells you a little bit about every specific character. You can see what their strengths and weaknesses are. So this one is basically a fast, attacky person. Then you've got the one that I got to play a lot was Cora. She's basically, she's all offense. She's a little support, a little speed, a little defense, but she's basically run in there and stab the crap out of people. And she does a lot of AoE attacks, and she's very fierce. Very good character to play. And then you got Iris. She was the healer that I started out with, and as you can see, her job is speed, defense, and recovery. And she did very well. But basically, you definitely, as you can see, she's kind of squeamish. She's not really an in your face fighter, but she's basically stand back and heal people. Um, and you can move your characters around as you play. Again, this is like you're playing your characters. You can move them around, and whoever's in the front line, some attacks will hit them, or some attacks will go beyond them. It really depends on how you organize things. And then you got Rex, is basically a jump in there and fight everything. Um, he's very reckless, so you have to watch out. He will get himself in trouble because while he can do a lot of damage to the bad guys, to whoever you stumble across in your gameplay, he is also very prone to getting his ass kicked. So there's that. And we're going to go back. Again, there were no Reclaimers or Watchers announced yet. Though just kind on the name Reclaimers, one of the factions, one of the groups you work with are scavengers. Or there are scavengers, because basically you're in a post-apocalyptic world, and you have to scavenge the remains of this utopia that had fallen, in order to, bolster your, everything. Basically, you're going to find older tech or older things, and the fact that they have a raccoon as their icon, basically, you're going to be the trash pandas of the group. Then we've got Watchers. We got the green colors in the arrows, and the fact that the icon looks like a beaver. Feels like these are more druidic types, people who are part of the forest and are basically probably more support types. Maybe like a little bit of World of Warcraft druids, possibly. I don't know. People of Hope's End, these are folks who don't necessarily go on the journeys for the most part, but they are the ones kind of holding the line against the bad stuff that's been going on. And then you got the others. So let's take a look at the people of Hope's End. And they're basically, they don't belong to any specific faction, and the one you run with is Belko. He's your tank. He's going to be up front hitting people with hammers, and it's amazing. So he doesn't do a ton of damage, but he is definitely good for bolstering defenses of everybody else. And also, basically, he's just good at that. So let's take a quick look at the Reclaimers, and it tells you who they are. Scavenging and searching for various things. Of the Scavengers, the Reclaimers are very tactical. So yeah, Trash Panda is Trash Panda. And it says no railers have been revealed for them just yet, so it's in the works. The same thing with the Watchers. Okay, so they build, maintain, and guard Hope's End, so they're not even forest related necessarily. Their role is mostly defense of the city, so they're not outside the city like Sentinels and Reclaimers. Okay, and then finally the others is... These are folks who don't belong to anywhere. And the only one, we only know of a couple. And I didn't actually get to play with either one of these. So they weren't part of the stuff that I did. And they're both support characters. Like, full-on support. And then, she's the voice of the forest. And this is a scientist. And every character as you play them will have voice-acted lines. And there'll be like a little card with their face on it, and their face will change based on their mood. I mean, that's fairly common in these sorts of video games. And so it's pretty typical there. So we want to talk about the locations as well. So these are the places that you will travel through as you progress through the game. And first of all, the Queen's Forest. The Queen is an important character, even though she's not technically around anymore. As far as anybody knows, there is no end to the forest. Everybody in this post-apocalyptic world live in walled cities, and basically it's because of the White Rot. The White Rot is the Queen's curse. Back when she attacked the utopian world, and the people won, but at great cost. She cursed the world with the White Rot, and the White Rot keeps expanding, and there are monsters. There are, basically people taking advantage of the White Rot. The White Rot is destroying the world over and over and over again. Or basically, you've got the world, and then you've got the White Rot going. So the forest is becoming corrupted by this and uninhabitable. So as you can see through some of these images, there was this really cool sci-fi sort of utopian, situation, and then you've got, it says swipe to look around. Well, we can't swipe. Maybe we can. No, we can't. It's because it's embedded. So you can kind of get an idea. So this is what the white rot looks like. It's conquering and mutating some of the afflicted, and it's an ailment. Much to the dismay of Melka. Melka is the character who's like, she comes from the forest. So she has her own little side quest. As you progress through the game, you will experience side quests. Like a character, like say Belka says, "Hey, I have a friend who came out, blah blah blah. Maybe we should do this little diversion and go find our friend or whatever." And so characters will have their own motivations, and will offer you little side quests that you can do, or you could follow the main path if that's what you desire. And then you can go back to the main path. All right, so everybody lived in Hope's End. But the problem is, you're living in these walled up cities, and there's nowhere. It's like you want to be free. So, what happened was there was a broadcast. We'll talk about the story here in just a moment. And the broadcast is what caused people to start leaving and going out on the rails. So there's the train station, and the last trains have already left. So basically, most of the city is emptied because people have already gone, and things are falling apart. And so there's the training grounds, and they're talking about the various groups. The scavengers, they're the military force. So the scavengers are the overall military force, and there's 4 groups, as they said. And Cora is the overall leader of all of the scavengers. She's like the High King, the High Queen. Okay. So basically, the folks you pick up will help decide, it will help you play through the game. So the Sentinels, their motto is for survival. The Reclaimers are to rebuild tomorrow. And notice how the Reclaimers also have part of their symbol is a traffic light. Like one of those lights that come on at night. That's actually really fascinating. And so they've got like crystals and spears. They've got traffic lights. And they've got arrows. And like the city walls. You see the crenellations at the top. And so yeah, the Watchers kind of keep the place. But I do notice that that is definitely a beaver. So the building dams, the builders. And then you got the Seekers. I like the symbol. This is why your train is PHX double aught, is because it's Phoenix. So I do like that logo a lot. The Seekers were a special group, being the Railers who would set out for the end of the line. They're effectively gone since the last group of Railers left a long time ago. Now, this is 18 years since the last group of Railers left, which is our character's parents, the conductor's parents. Now it's time that we're bringing the Seekers back to try to resurrect the Railers and actually fulfill the dream. So let's go back to the story. So this is the story. So the interesting thing is this image doesn't really match the rest of the game. I mean, the whole shit-eating grin on this guy's face is mirrored in some of the other stuff, but this doesn't really resemble. I mean, you can see some of the archetypes there's no character like this in the game that I saw. There's no character like this in the game that I saw. There was one, that lone wolf character looked like, kind of could have come from her. This kind of looks like the character that became Castor, the scientist. And this is kind of like the guy who gets himself in trouble. But none of these are really in the game, which I find is really fascinating. And there's also like a wolf companion over here. It's got a backpack on. It's really cool. But I never saw a character like that in the game. So you could kind of see the evolution of the game just based on this piece of art versus what is actually in the game. So this is what happened. There was a utopia. You notice that I don't know, is it a walled city of some kind? But utopia, flying things. It looked really, really nice. One which rivaled the heavens. And so all the current people know is that this was a glorious age. And it's all they know is their stories. There was Ragnarok. Interesting that they chose the Ragnarok, which is a very, Norse myth sort of name, but it's kind of become in mainstream contemporary culture as everybody knows Ragnarok means the end of the world. Technically Ragnarok is the end of the world as in the end of the gods, the death of the gods, but in this case there was a spider queen. Well, I don't know, she's not even a spider, but there's definitely spideristic tendencies here. She's called as the Queen of Doubles. She attacked, massacring many, but she was defeated, but she cast a curse. She cursed to plague the lands, and again, this is where the whole spider thing comes from. It feels very spidery. So the White Rot is continuing to destroy the land, and people are trying to fight against the White Rot and still cling to what they have left, and so they have towns like Hope's End, which are the only thing you've got left. But the thing that still kind of boggles my mind is how the hell do we have working railways? I don't understand that part. Because you can see in this image of Hope's End, there's the railway leading in and out. And this is because this is the train station. I don't get it. And it tells you what your hope, what Hope's End actually is. I mean, the art is gorgeous. The art in this game is really, really nice. Like this robotic arm holding up a sign. I don't know, is that frog crossing? It looks like a frog. There's a little placard saying this is office, and it looks like it might have hours on it, or contact information. There's a lot of little pink things saying vacant lot, trying to advertise, hey, move in here because there's nothing here. There's a lot of graffiti / art. There's people just giving stuff away. There's like, here, have my stuff, I'm leaving. Interesting sort of traffic light over here. There's a signpost. And there's a little rickshaw over here. But for the most part, it's basically people struggling to maintain what they have. And maybe, hopefully, trying to, some folks are dreaming for a better life. So here's what happened. Here's the catalyst. Why there is a story. Or why there is something other than this society is dying. Because the name of the town is Hope's End, right? And so here we go. Hope begins to die out. There was a broadcast. This technology that hadn't worked in forever. Suddenly, somebody said something. And the figure is indistinct, so obviously it could be male or female. Go to the end of the line to restore what once was. So what happened was a whole bunch of folks organized these adventures, these self-sufficient trains, and departed Hope's End, taking with them their stuff, whatever. But for some reason, the conductor was left behind. So the conductor spent 18 years. I guess the conductor was an infant when that happened, because you're about 18 years old when you start off the game. And then they talk about the railers. And again, none of these characters are any of the railers in the game. There's a couple that are similar, but not really. Unless these characters have just not been announced yet, though. This one does kind of feel like that one character named Lone Wolf. And these are the railers are. These are the folks that restored the great trains of the past and sought to seek out the mysteries presented by the broadcast, as it says. So what waits them at the end of the line, we don't know. There's a little bit of time travel involved. You will wind up in a different version of Hope's End. It's like, wait a minute, this is not the Hope's End I remember. So here's the conductor. Again, you can play either male or female. I would also like to point out my annoyance that the female character has cutouts in her uniform, her outfit to show off a bit more skin. Why do you have to do that, video game? The cool coat that the male character is wearing is actually really cool, and the female character should have that too. I mean, come on. You can show off the arms, but do you really need to show off her waist and, part of her butt like that? No, you don't got to. So, that's about the only thing I have to say about that. And also the fact that her hair is very, very, very nice, but her goggles are clearly decorative, whereas the male character can easily just slide his goggles down and he's good to go. That's a pet peeve of mine across any character wearing goggles. If it looks like it's an ornament and not useful goggles, why the fuck do you even have them on? And also goggles who are or characters who are flying through things or driving very fast, so there's a lot of wind in their face, and they have their goggles perched in their hair. It's kind of like the guy who was at a baseball game wearing a baseball cap turned backwards, so the brim was on the back, and he was doing like this because the sun was in his face. It's like, bro, put your hat on. Anywho, so basically, whole bunch of railers left to seek the end of the line and never return, and that, of course, diminished the population and longevity of Hope's End. And, of course, left a lot of orphans around. So you're going to be traveling. You've ended up in charge of this last / latest expedition. You're the last of the Seekers. We're adamant to be the ones to actually do it. Nobody's ever come back, but we're going to be the ones to do it. So we have the train as our home, and we have little signs of good luck railers. So I don't know. We'll find out how that turns out. But that is basically the end of the line. These are the characters you actually wind up playing with, not the stylistic ones. Maybe the stylistic ones were like a previous party of railers who set out, because they're definitely not these ones these I played with. Though I don't know who this character is. She wasn't in the listings here in the game guide, and I don't remember having her in my party. And I don't remember playing with Melka either. I definitely had Belko. I had Cora. I had Iris. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But he had a sister, it was like him and his sister. Actually, they might be siblings. Like, she's the shy and quiet one, and he's the in your face, whatever. And then you got the conductor going, "Follow me!" But this is then the end of the line, the New Age. Or is it just New Age? Hold on. No, it's just New Age. So end of the line, New Age is the game. Again, it's not available on Steam or Epic or PC yet or anywhere. But the link to the website will be in the thing below. So check them out. See if this is something you might want to play. And hopefully they'll put out a demo on various platforms that you can actually check the game out. Because I can only describe what I was playing. It was basically... There was a world that you can navigate around. You can move your character around. And then you get into random encounters. Sometimes there's encounters that you see that are coming. And then there's some that you don't see that are coming. That just happen as you're trying to get from point A to point B. So, and then once you get into the fight scenes, then you start setting out your characters. Who's in the front line, who's in the back line. And then you decide what actions they're going to take. And then there's a whole thing on the side that will show you who's next, who's going to take their turn. So once you get into combat, it's turn-based. But it plays very much like a JRPG in that regard. Now, I did not actually experience any of the gacha stuff, as like the starring things, any of that stuff during the demo that I played at PAX East. But maybe that will be part of whatever demo eventually winds up on like Steam or Epic or wherever. So that's the end of the line at New Age, a game that was demoing at PAX East 2026 in Boston. And if it's something you like, definitely bookmark them and keep them in mind. And hopefully they'll get a demo out that you can play soon. All right? Thanks for watching. If you like this kind of video, like it. If you like the channel, subscribe to it. It is completely free. It doesn't cost you anything. And you get my crazy shenanigans in your feed. I'm sorry. And thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your day. Bye now.